You're upgrading your view on OpenAI and its orbit. In plain English, explain why, Gil, and why public market investors who are listening right, Gil, why should they care?
Well, yes, this really is about OpenAI. And if you've looked at the stocks for the last 6 months, what you've seen is that the market has decided that Google is the only winner. And then the whole OpenAI complex orbit is lost. Right? So that's why Google has outperformed Microsoft, NVIDIA, Oracle so much over the last 6 months. What we're arguing is that Google is a winner, but the race is not over. And while OpenAI was meandering a little bit a few months ago, they are now far more focused on what they should be, which is ChatGPT and good frontier models. They're also now scared their investors into a very large round. Microsoft, Amazon, and NVIDIA don't want Google to win. They don't want Google to run away with AI. So they're now going to fund OpenAI with another $100 billion on top of the $40 billion OpenAI already has. So OpenAI will have time, it will have the capital to spend on more compute, ramp revenue. And the last thing we expect from OpenAI is that over the next few days or weeks, they're going to introduce a new model that's going to be state of the art. So it'll be better than Google's. So this whole story and narrative that Google has already won is going to be harder to tell when the best model is actually an OpenAI model.
When you say state of the art there, Gil, I'm just curious, better than Google, how are you judging that, Gil? By what variables, by what metrics?
Well, we benchmark it internally. My colleague Alex Platt looks at the public benchmarks, and then he also runs the models to see how they compare. And so he has an up-to-date benchmark on that, and he expects that the next model from OpenAI is going to be top of the rankings for that based on external benchmarks as well as his benchmark. And then the publicly traded companies are the important ones right now. Since OpenAI isn't public, we're talking primarily about Microsoft and NVIDIA that are going to revert in terms of their stock performance when that happens. When OpenAI has the capital and has the best model, they should revert to the mean with Google, which is right now trading at a far higher multiple compared to Microsoft and NVIDIA and compared to its historical multiple trading range.
What about those, Gil, who say, and I'm interested to get your take on this, and we've had tech analysts on the show, they look at Google and they say, Gil, Sundar Pichai, he just has certain advantages over Altman. He's got that full stack. He's got the chips. He's got the cloud business. He's got the distribution. What do you say to that?
That's all true, which is why Google should be a winner. But if you look at a little deeper than that, ChatGPT has 3 times as many users as Gemini, and Anthropic is leading in the enterprise. Google Cloud just accelerated to 48%, but it's still smaller than Azure and AWS, and their ad business is growing slower than Meta's. So yeah, Google's a winner. They have a lot of structural advantages here, but they're not the only winner, and they're unlikely to be the only winner, especially if Amazon, Microsoft, and NVIDIA gang up to support OpenAI and Anthropic.
So the OpenAI story you're telling here, Gil, which is, as always, you make a compelling case. What are the risks for OpenAI, though, as you were writing this note and talking to your clients? What could go wrong for Sam Altman's company?
So the first thing was what was going wrong last year, which is they started to spread themselves too thin. If they go back to that, we would be concerned. Let's not forget, OpenAI went from having a good frontier model in ChatGPT to wanting to build their own chips and build their own data centers and have hardware and get into enterprise software and all these things that are superfluous and it's not well positioned to do. What we've seen them is come back to focusing on the frontier model and ChatGPT. If they revert back to spending capital on things they shouldn't be in, we'd be concerned. And then the other thing is you can't count the chickens till they hatch. Until they actually have the $100 billion in the bank from Microsoft, Amazon, and NVIDIA, it's not a done deal yet. So we're going to be waiting to see that happen, hopefully by the end of March.
Gil, I also do want to dig into this call on Oracle that you made, because I know, listen, you've been critical of Larry Ellison's company, but you now go to a buy. How come? Just walk me through it, Gil.
Well, Oracle went from trading at $345 on September 11th, which was a 45 times earnings multiple, to $143 as of Friday, which is an 18 times earnings multiple. So what the market did is say, not only are we not going to give you, not only are we not going to give you the credit for Oracle Cloud and the OpenAI business, we're going to actually ding you. We're going to penalize you for having a relationship with OpenAI. And we think that's taking it too far. Right now, the stock Oracle is really just trading based on the software business with almost nothing for all of Oracle Cloud, including this OpenAI business, when in other places like CoreWeave and Nebius, it's giving them full credit for the backlog. It's giving Oracle almost no credit for the same backlog from the same customers. So that doesn't make sense. So if OpenAI does well and has this positive catalyst of fundraise and top model, Oracle is the public company that's most closely tied to OpenAI and therefore should perform well as these catalysts play out.
I thought it was also interesting, Gil, just quickly, you did talk about TikTok USA, how that's sort of an underappreciated kind of potential tailwind for Oracle. How much does TikTok USA matter to Oracle, Gil, financially, strategically, and why do you think it's being sort of overlooked?
Well, I think there's just been so much activity around the AI part of the business that the TikTok was a quiet addition, but it was a windfall. They got 19% of TikTok USA for practically nothing. It's probably worth somewhere between $5 and $10 billion as is. But let's step back and think about what it could be worth. Of the $1.7 trillion of Meta, probably 40% of that's the US, 700 billion, and probably half of that is Insta, which is so $350 billion worth of value. TikTok USA, if you talk to consumers, they consider it almost equivalent to Instagram. And so it's not inconceivable to think that TikTok USA is going to be worth at least a lot more than it is worth today. Not to mention that owning TikTok USA means that that part of the OCI revenue is secure, since they own 19% of that portion of TikTok.
Gil, as always, great to have you on the show. Thank you.